Good to have you. Whoop Studios Africa, a leading creator service provider, marked a significant milestone at the 2025 Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity by hosting a session at the Lions Creators Forum. The session, titled Cracking the Code with Africa's Creators, was held at the Palais de Festivals, marking history as the first African-led creator delegation to participate in the forum. The panel, led by Adetutu, Laditan, creative director at Whoop Studios, explored Africa's growing influence in the global creator economy. Laditan emphasized Africa's potential, citing its booming digital infrastructure, vibrant storytelling culture, and tech-savvy youth. The panel showcased how African creators are reshaping narratives, influencing global marketing trends, and driving social change. To speak on what this milestone means for Africa's creators economy and why representation in these global spaces matters more than ever, Adetutu, Laditan, founder and creative director of Whoop Studios, pioneering African creator services company making history on the global stage now, joins us. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I know I've said so much there, but anyway, it's all you. Yeah. So how does it feel to be leading the first African creator delegation to Cannes Lions, and why is that a big moment for your company?
Okay, so I went to Cannes Lions for the first time last year as a judge, and I was exposed to so much coming from multiple continents of the world, especially when I look at what Brazil is doing, and there was very little representation of African creative voices. And it's quite understandable. We have our own unique, peculiar infrastructural challenges and learning and all of that kind of stuff. But it was very important to come to places like that, not just for representation purposes, but also to give creative voices exposure. So for me as Whoop Studio, taking the learnings from last year, I decided with the team to say, let's take African voices. I think representation is important, right? Especially in global festivals where you have global creative leaders, from marketing directors, CEOs, CMOs, and all the creative folks. And I mentioned earlier that I went last year and I saw very little African presence, and it sort of challenged us to say, let's bring African voices to this global stage. So working with the Cannes team, we were able to take delegates from Nigeria, South Africa, and Ghana to speak for the very first time at the Cannes stage on a very critical topic, with the objective to give the creators the opportunity to share their narrative and share their stories, but more importantly, for them to see some of the things that is happening globally, how tech is shaping narrative, how the creative minds think, and for them to also make like minds and grow. So I'm super proud. I'm super proud we're able to do it for the first time. I'm hoping we can do more and find more collaboration with other African agencies and have more representation. Right?
And I'm sure congratulations are still in order.
It is. There's a lot of it.
All right, so in terms of specifics, the type of conversations you try to achieve with this session, can you give us a glimpse of that as well?
So our session was called Cracking the Code with African Creators, and it focused on 4 primary things. One was, what are our cultural nuances? We are a very community-orientated society in Africa, and when you talk about cultural nuances as a creator, it brings about authenticity in one way or the other. You have to be authentic in your narrative. So we need to bring that at the forefront. But more importantly, we also talk about the role of influencers, right, and how brands can build trust and community and have authentic conversations with their users. And we talked about how tech is also shaping in Africa. As much as we might not be as advanced as many of the matured markets, we're seeing lots of creatives using AR, VR, even AI in really creative ways to express themselves. But I think the most important thing is the ripple effect of the creator economy. There are creators that are even more powerful than politicians, let's be frank, right? That are advocating and doing things around climate change, talking about gender equality, and people listen to them. So we wanted to bring these 4 links of cultural nuances, the role of tech, influence, and the ripple effect it all has on the global stage. And it was well received, because I felt it's not just about Africa. We wanted to just show other creatives and creators that these are key things you should consider when sort of propagating your message.
And I think that's absolutely beautiful. And I know you're someone who is big on representation. But when you look at this particular Cannes Lions, many African creators still struggle to get recognized when it comes to funding, global visibility, and also when it comes to that global, awareness and recognition that they deserve. What do you think needs to be done more locally, especially for our Nigerian creatives?
I think there's a lot of baby steps we can take, first and foremost, one of which is, if you don't know what you don't know, you need to go find that information. I am a big user of technology. I use Google throughout. I mean, I worked in the company, but more importantly, I use AI. So you must first and foremost have a strategy as a creator. If I'm not visible, what do I need to do, right? And then work with people who have the experience and the expertise to help you map out a plan, right? What tends to happen is, and creators who do, I talk about local champion mindsets. If you have a local champion mindset, you stay stuck. You need to see what are your counterparts in global markets doing, and there's so much information. There's so much information not to do it. So for me, it's first and foremost having a strategic plan of what you need to do, finding the right people and the right network to give you that exposure and network, and then intentionally mapping out strategies to be visible, right? Creating content and opportunities for collaborations. Work with agencies. I think agencies like mine and many others have the skill set and the tools and resources to help you thrive. So those are some of the baby steps.
And then there's social media too.
And then there's social media. Use it effectively. I mean, social media is such a powerful tool for sort of driving change, right? So if you know how to use it in an effective way to get your message and your narrative and your brand out there, it's a win.
So why do you believe African voices beyond film and music should be heard and seen in such prestigious places, you think?
I think music has cracked the export opportunity, right? We were in France, and throughout I was listening to Rema, Shake, everybody. There's a lot of African music out there, but I feel like when it comes to film and other verticals, the challenge for export is still there, right? And we just have to be really frank. There's a lot of money that could be made with exposure when you export, because the reality is in Africa, a lot of the multinationals are not investing as much. So we need to start thinking about how do we export other verticals, film, right? Whether it's things we do in the creatives, but find that opportunity there to make sure that people can earn for the work that they do. And our stories are fantastic. I mean, we have a lot of things that are quite good, similar to what the Korean market is doing. That is where Africa should be sort of aiming for.
So how do you think Africa is perceived globally, especially when it comes to when you go for events like Cannes Lions? How do you think Africans and African creatives are perceived, and what do you think needs to be done to change whatever negative narrative or perception we have out there?
I think generally perception is positive because Africa is a really creative economy. I mean, we're young. It's a very young economy. So if you see the energy, the passion, people can see that clearly. But I also do feel like the perception is that we are not as advanced from a technology standpoint. And when you start looking at investment coming from the region or return on investment for many of these folks, we're not yet there. So what do I think needs to be done? One is a few more African voices we need to come to a point of collaboration. If we collaborate more and just pick a few more verticals that we can sort of propel, we'll do way better. I also feel like Africans as one, right? And then when I say Africans as one, Nigeria has its nuances for Afrobeat and everything. South Africa has Amapiano, Ghana has its own. If we do have that collective narrative of the creative economy is the future that is going to drive Africa's growth, right? And start mapping our strategies for all of those opportunities, I think it's a win-win. Finding opportunities to also collaborate with tech companies, right? You have some of the biggest tech companies at the festival, and they're always wondering, because they have very little understanding of the region, like what do we do to help, right? So we also need to be able to give them something to help us, right, in terms of tech, and also build the skill sets.
And also educate them.
And also educate them, because a lot of people are like, oh, you're from Africa. And then the follow-up question is always like, there's so much you don't know, right? So I feel that there's that collective thing we have to do of educating the global world, but also just working together to build better.
Very good, Adetutu. Just because of time, one more minute. Beyond Cannes, what are the prospects for African content creators and the likes?
There's so much. First and foremost, exposure. We need to export. And I always talk about universal appeal in my narrative, right? It's good to be a comedian, it's good to be like a food creator in Africa, but if you do not have export quality, it's harder. So how do you start talking to a universal audience, translating things to multiple languages, right? Using tech effectively, right? That would help you scale. But I also feel like in Africa and our creative ecosystem, creatives they're the plumber, they're the mechanic, they're the engineer. So they also need the kind of support that would make sure they're creatives, but then they can sort of scale and expand. And I'm here to help. There are a lot of other people here to help as well.
And we must really thank you for your time. And well done. Kudos on the beautiful job you're doing out there. Adetutu Laditan, founder and creative director, Wolf Studios. Thank you for your time.
Thanks so much.